This is Bloomberg Crypto, a daily Bloomberg iHeart podcast. And I'm Stacey Marie Ishmael, managing editor of crypto for Bloomberg News. It's Thursday, October 6th. How do you go from video game studio to major crypto VC investor in the space of a few short years? That's exactly the path that Animoca Brands has been on. Since its founding in 2014, Animoca has expanded well beyond making mobile games into owning and operating a portfolio of investments and acquisitions that includes more than 300 different finance, gaming, and social media companies. Yat Siu, Animoca's co-founder, has, as a result, become one of the most influential people in technology. Bloomberg reporter Zheping Huang.
Yat Siu thinks we can digitalize your ownership of your tokens and assets in a way that everyone will has true property ownership, and their data is not controlled by a centralized company.
Joins me now to chart the path of Animoca and its founder from indie game studio to crypto conglomerate. So good to have you on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hey everyone, excited to be here. I'm Zheping Huang and I'm covering Asia technology and crypto out of Hong Kong.
Lots going on in Asia technology at all times. You have a pretty busy beat, but lots going on particularly as it relates to crypto and blockchain, especially in terms of a company called Animoca Brands. Why don't you just tell us a little bit more about Animoca, about their founder, and why they've been in the news so often recently?
Yeah, so Animoca is like Asia's biggest blockchain and Web3 gaming investor. And this is its current status, but it started like about a decade ago. And before its pivot into crypto, it was a sort of a dying mobile game developer based in Hong Kong. And the company was making those casual mobile games. But back in 2018, the company made its first investment in CryptoKitties, which was the world's first like popular NFT collection. So that was its like entry point into crypto. And ever since then, it's been buying a lot of like promising startups and projects in the crypto space. And till this day, it's still doing so. Even now, we are in the middle of a crypto winter. Last summer, I think, the company first reached the unicorn status by reaching $1 billion US dollar valuation in a fundraising round led by Sequoia. And now the company is valued at $6 billion US dollars. So it's just in the matter of 12 months.
That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a very large valuation. It is a very short amount of time to achieve that valuation. How is this happening? Like, who is the person behind this?
Right. So Yat Siu is the founder and the mastermind behind all the pivot into crypto. So Yat Siu is not your typical tech bro. Like he talks like softly, and he is a father of 3 kids. And he always wear those sportswear like the hoodie and athletic pants. It can be just someone that's jogging on a Hong Kong trail. That's someone you can run into in a morning jog. But apart from his like very soft like appearance and the way he speaks, he has strong message for the big tech. That is, he wants to use his company and its all subsidiaries, the tokens he holds, to sort of revolutionize the internet of today, because today's internet is pretty much controlled by a couple like big players like Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, or Tencent. But with blockchain, Yat Siu thinks we can digitalize your ownership of your tokens and assets in a way that everyone will has true property ownership, and their data is not controlled by a centralized company.
Now, there's an interesting tension that you're describing, right? Which is that his whole thing is about decentralization and how blockchain will give users and customers like back the value that they currently provide to these big tech companies. But Animoca is now so big and has invested in so many different types of companies, not just blockchain, not just gaming, that they are kind of becoming a sort of a centralized force in their own right.
Yeah, they're sort of a gatekeeper in the Web3 space because they're so influential. And we talked to some startup founders or crypto entrepreneurs. They sort of feel like, hey, if we don't get an investment from Animoca, does that mean we're missing out? And at the same time, like Yat Siu is trying to build an ecosystem, right? Like it's trying to plug its portfolio companies into a bigger internet blockchain system. For example, like one of its subsidiaries is making games for the Bored Ape collection, which is one of the top NFT collections, things like that. That approach will make people ask, if I'm not one of Animoca's investees, or if Animoca doesn't hold token to my crypto project, will I still be part of the future that Yat Siu is envisioning? There's a big question mark around that.
Well, there's another question mark about how sustainable is this future at all, right? So they've got this extremely concentrated crypto exposure in addition to having like crypto on its own balance sheet in the middle of what's turning out to be a pretty protracted crypto winter. Is Yat Siu at all worried about this?
Right now, we're looking at like crypto games like Axie, and they sort of pioneer the play to earn model, right? But it doesn't really work during the down cycle. So once the token price drop, if players are here for the money but not for the fun, they'll actually leave the game. So we've seen that with CryptoKitties, and we've seen that with Axie, and will constantly happen as long as like players are here for the money. Yat Siu acknowledged that problem actually for his industry, and he's sort of arguing that he's spending more time to build higher quality AAA games, which may take a couple years to come to the market. When we interviewed him, he showed us some demos, trailers for a couple of blockchain games they're building. They look similar to some of the more popular or better produced games here in the traditional console market, like Fortnite, or there's another space shooter game which looks actually pretty cool. If those like more serious games turn out to be a big hit, then it will solve part of the issue. Yat Siu actually thinks it's a good time to deploy more capital because funders still need money, and Yat Siu has a big war chest. So the company and him will just go out and keep finding those bargain investments.
But I want to go back to something that you said about the potential for blockbuster games. It's not particularly controversial to point out that most blockchain games right now are just not fun. And they are, as you just said, really environments in which people are there for the money as opposed to for the game. And the money is declining, Axie Infinity, again, being an example of this. The fun is not necessarily rising. What do we think is the patience of potential blockchain gamers if those blockbuster Fortnite equivalents are 2 to 3 years away?
I think the issue will be like, for companies like Animoca that are making Web3 games, they shouldn't be only targeting the crypto gamers or the crypto traders. They should be targeting the way bigger like gamer market. So if there's a day when a Xbox player or a PS5 player that will be drawn to a Web3 game without noticing there's even a blockchain element to it, then that will be a big success for Animoca. So I guess it's less about the patience for crypto enthusiasts because they have the basic knowledge of the tokens and that they will go through all the troubles of like creating a wallet and linking it to the game. But if Animoca's game can be naturally integrated to the blockchain technology without letting gamers know, then it can have a much bigger user adoption.
I think that the challenge right now is you can get the much bigger user adoption, but like the time horizon seems further away. is it that Animoca is using other parts of its portfolio to kind of subsidize that potential couple of years between, okay, we are where we are with the existing blockchain games, but in, like our version of Fortnite is just around the corner? Like, how are they bridging this gap in the meantime?
I think one of Animoca's biggest cash cows is called Sandbox. It's a blockchain-based UGC content platform, similar to Roblox or Minecraft. So what Sandbox is doing is it's been doing a lot of like those virtual land sales to big brands like Nike or even some of the local banks in Hong Kong. They're spending huge money on just buying lands on a virtual space, which has yet to have much happening, because at the same time, game developers or even like indie like game enthusiasts they're using the in-game tool to try to build those in-game mini games on top of the Sandbox platform. That's happening while they're doing the land sales. So as you can see, like they have a sort of quick and immediate way to make money. Meanwhile, they're letting their players in their ecosystem to try to provide more content to fill the gap.
We'll be right back with more from Bloomberg reporter Zheping Huang. What are some of the non-crypto parts of the Animoca portfolio?
Oh yeah, they have some games from the Web 2 era, like some Power Ranger games. So it's sort of the fighting and racing games that they have published during the mobile game boom back like 10 years ago. But they're sort of just letting those games to adapt their own lives, meaning they're not putting extra resources into them. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, they're looking at their portfolio gaming portfolio and also portfolio companies to see which are the ones we should pick out and let them make like blockchain game or turning like existing mobile games into blockchain game by adding a layer of the token economics.
Animoca is clearly, particularly as it relates to, other investors and funders in the region, one of the biggest out there. And when it comes to, folks who, if you don't live in China or Japan or Singapore and you might be less familiar with them, they've been compared to like an Andreessen Horowitz or an A16Z. Do you see them as potentially getting kind of a similar reputation outside of Asia, where it's like folks who are based in New York or in Silicon Valley are looking to Animoca as a potential funder in the way that they look to some of these, big US-based venture capital firms now?
Yeah, I think that's happening because right now I'm traveling in the States and just spend a couple of days in the Bay Area. So the Web3 funders, at least the ones I met with, they recognize Animoca as a big player. And people are flying to Singapore, to Hong Kong to meet them because they're big, like there's a crypto event happening in Singapore. And the founders want to get Animoca money, even if they're based in the States. And as a matter of fact, Animoca did acquire a like local game studio called Enway here in San Francisco a couple years ago. So yeah, actually it's making inroads into not only Asia, but also the bigger Western market. I think one key difference between Animoca and a VC firm like A16Z is Animoca is actually, yes, it's a big investment house, but it's also trying to build something like in-house. It's an operations company which runs so many game studios, right? But that may go back to our earlier point that it still wants to woo the world of gamers with its own creation of the next blockbuster titles, which happen to have a blockchain element to it.
Right. So a kind of a comparison would be like if Facebook/Meta were one of the biggest investors in other social media companies while also being Facebook/Meta.
Yeah, exactly. And actually in Asia, that's Tencent.
Right. In the process of your reporting, because you've been reporting on Animoca for a very long time, you have managed to kind of convey the appropriately crypto levels of what seems to be boundless enthusiasm and confidence that Yat Siu and other folks associated with Animoca have in terms of the future, but what are their big plans? Like what's the 5, 10, 15-year horizon?
That's a good question. I wish I asked Yat Siu, like, what's your 5-year plan? Because like the Chinese government love 5-year economic plan. But he was sort of saying like he wished to take the company public in the next 2 or 3 years, but it depends on the market situation. Because I feel he's grown to a stage that he needs to let investors a way out, because people have been backing him since like 2018, and the VC or PE firms they need to cash out. The easiest way will be through an IPO. But that's his like plans in the financial markets. But back on the operation side of things, I think it's just like keep acquiring up and coming blockchain startups, or acquiring some internet startups that's already big in their own niche, and then through the acquisition, Animoca give them a new play in blockchain. So a case of that will be its acquisition of an education company called TinyTap, which connects online tutors with like school kids. So they're a content platform, but now they're moving their content to blockchain. So yeah, Animoca will just keep buying. It's sort of also like the VC play. Like it's a number game, right? Sometimes you fail, sometimes the startups will grow big, but you only need to have a couple wins to be successful.
Well, time will tell. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Stacey.
You can find more of his reporting on the Bloomberg terminal, on Bloomberg.com, or on Twitter. He's at PingRoma. That's PINGROME. On the next episode of Bloomberg Crypto, we'll catch you up on what's been, you guessed it, yet another busy week in crypto. We'll talk regulation, markets, and why there are almost no crypto CEOs left. This is Bloomberg Crypto, a daily podcast from Bloomberg and iHeartRadio. For more shows from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Send us your comments, questions, or suggestions for the show to crypto@bloomberg.net. Or find us on Twitter, we're @crypto. The supervising producer of Bloomberg Crypto is Vicky Vergolina. Our senior producer is Janet Babin. Our producers are Mohammed Farouk and Sharon Barrero. Desta Wonderad is our engineer. Original music by Leo Sidran. I'm Stacey Marie Ishmael. We'll be back tomorrow.